Each day, we're bombarded by everything wrong in the world. When we pick up our phone, turn on the TV, or listen to the radio, we hear all about the heartbreak and destruction happening across the globe. But what if we could change that? What if we could begin to heal the world by focusing on all that's right? We are surrounded by stories of those helping their communities, achieving incredible things, and overcoming insurmountable obstacles. My name is Kelly Rowland, and it's my mission to share stories of love, hope, and inspiration. And I would love for you to join me. Born to Inspire is available at borntoinspirepodcast.com and on most podcasting platforms. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Born to Inspire podcast. My name is Kelly Rowland. I'm so excited about today's episode. I love painting. I'm not a professional, but I just find it so therapeutic to sit down with a canvas and paint something and create. Well, in a blog post I recently wrote, I talk about a particularly difficult week I had. I was facing a stressful situation, and I realized after spending a couple of hours painting that I had gotten so wrapped up and so focused in what I was doing that I literally forgot about what was stressing me out. I mean, this had pretty much dominated my thoughts for about a week, so it was really amazing. It was at that point that I really realized the power that art has when it comes to relieving stress. So I set out to find an expert in the area, and I came across Amy Maricle. She offers amazing art classes and coaching online and focuses on the mindful piece of creating art. So enjoy. Welcome to Born to Inspire podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the concept. It's so great what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I'm so excited to hear about your practice as a art coach. I think I'd like to start by just hearing how you got into this field.
Yeah. So I founded Mindful Art Studio about, 2015 officially, I guess. So, no, it's still like 5 or 6 years ago, 6 years ago now, I guess, in May. And so I kind of came to it in a funny way. Like, I feel like I'm doing my dream job, but if you had asked me as a kid, I wouldn't have been able to identify what that would be. Yeah. I've had several lives. Like, I was a human rights activist, and then realized that I wanted to use art and wanted to also help people. And so I went into art therapy and did that for years. And then after I had my son, went into private practice. And then I started doing some art journaling classes locally here on the side. And because I had advertised it online, people in other parts of the country and the world were saying like, oh, I'd love to do that. And so I did an online version in 2014, and that started doing really well. And then little by little, just the kind of blogging and social media and everything, like it just started to grow. And then I made Mindful Art Studio an actual thing. And just like little by little realized I could reach so many different people and helping them not to do art therapy. I need to be really clear, that's not what I'm doing, but like my training informs my work, right? So the mindfulness piece, I can talk more about that in a minute, but that comes in because of my training, especially because of my training as a trauma therapist. There's a lot about kind of mindfulness and using the body, but art is such a natural way that, we can tune into the moment. And I know even like in that blog post that you had about painting and how much it helped you and how it helped you to really kind of clear your mind and just kind of be in the moment and be present with what you're doing. I mean, that's what meditation is all about, right? It's that singular focus, and art is so amazing. So, it became clear to me that, I could help so many people feel good and feel creative and realize those creative dreams, and still be like, in a life-changing way, be helpful to people. And I loved the work that I did as a therapist, but just kind of where my life was at, it made more sense to shift into doing art and helping people realize their creative dreams, really. And that I could do that from my home, still, kind of be a bit more present with my son, because the work I was doing before that took a lot of me.
Yeah.
And to do it well, I felt I needed to give more than I could while I was being a mom.
Yeah. What are some ways you help people kind of find their, creativity?
Lots of different ways, but I think right now, one of the main things that I try to do is number one is I like to offer invitations, and this comes out of the trauma training too, right? Like one of the things that happens, and it can happen for all of us, but when you have trauma, is that there's this real sense of a loss of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the really powerful lessons I learned from that, just about for any of us, is like, as a teacher, it's very empowering. And as a student, I think it's very empowering not to be told what to do and what's the exact right way, but rather to be offered invitations. Because suddenly when it's an invitation, there's space for you to have an opinion and for you to have your own way. And I feel like it takes a lot of the pressure down. Yeah. So part of it is even just in my approach. And the people who like my approach, it's because there's all that space, and there's a piece of it being, I definitely want people to advance and to improve their skills, but I also want it to be in a way that feels very much customized to them and being able to tune into themselves, because that for me is where the joy is. So for example, right now we're doing a lot of slow drawing. Since the pandemic started, I've been offering a free slow drawing session every single week, almost every single week. And so we get together for an hour. Now it's on Wednesdays, and I bring a new nature-inspired pattern every single week. It's always something that's really simple, like simple marks, either in paint or in pen, that anyone really could do, but that is all kind of boiled down and based in nature.
Yeah.
And so, but if there's a lot of focus, going back to the mindfulness, on really doing it slowly enough that you can actually notice, like, oh, I notice what the pen feels like in my hand. If I really listen, I can hear the pen moving on the page. And those are all those sensory cues that kind of bring us down into the moment and get us out of our head and just into the present moment, which is so much what all the great meditators are calling us to do, and to find that peacefulness. It's because whether you're cooking or showering or talking to your kid or whatever you're doing, when you are in that present state, it is calming.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said in the article, it's actually so powerful. And it's not as if I didn't know that art could be that powerful, but it's just in that moment, the light bulb went off, and, I had just had the most difficult time over the week, and I had literally forgotten about it for that amount of time. So it's an amazing thing. And I hope everybody tries it. I know some people think they have to have a certain skill, and I don't think that's true. I think art is for everybody.
I agree. Yeah. And I really think that everyone is creative. I think we all have different ways of expressing that creativity.
Yes.
Whether it's in, drawing or painting, or in creating really innovative solutions on spreadsheets, or telling great jokes, or the way that you put food together to create something new and exciting. Like, there's just so many different ways to express our human creativity.
Exactly. Yeah. And you said you work with professional artists as well. What kind of direction do you give professional artists? How is that different from somebody who's not necessarily, a professional artist and just kind of doing it for fun, as opposed to somebody who's professional?
So usually if I'm working with professional artists, there's a couple different ways. So with my coaching work, sometimes I'll get folks who have hit a creative block of some sort, or more often it's that they have been, kind of a combination. They've been doing work for a really long time, but somewhere along the way, they've lost the soul of the work, and they are attracted to my mindful approach to creating, and they want to get back to that really, I think, what can feel like a more pure creative expression. And when we slow down enough to, for instance, hear the pen, notice like the way that the watercolor is spreading, instead of just kind of being all like, oh my God, is it right? Is it wrong? You're actually just like present. You're noticing, wow, look at the watercolor spread. That's beautiful. When you slow your mind down enough, you can start to hear your imagination in a totally new way. So that then there's this channel of creativity that opens so much more easily, because all that mental chatter is out of the way, because the inner critic has stepped aside, because you're just present in the moment with the creative energy and with yourself.
That is so fascinating. And this is the first I've ever heard of that. So it's just really, really interesting. And it's definitely something I'm going to, apply to my own painting. Do you have any examples of any situations where you've really helped somebody in their art?
A lot. I think the thing that sticks out for me right now is just because we're in the midst of the pandemic, and the main way I've been trying to be helpful is through these slow drawing parties. And honestly, I can't tell you how many people have told me and written to me and said, like, knowing that I have the slow drawing party with you every single week, I look forward to that all week long. And it's part of what gets me through is doing that. And I have noticed that then it helps me slow down in other areas of my life. Or like one of my students in England was, one of our patterns was lichen. And so it was just, based on, there's many, many lichens, of course, but it was based on one particular type of lichen that I had tuned into. And I love lichen. I'm liking the lichen. I couldn't let that go without the pun. But, so I had done that, and then we used watercolor to fill it in. And she apparently had never tuned into lichen previously. And so she said now, rather than just, when she's on her walks, she's so much more plugged in to nature because of a bunch of the classes that she's done with me, but also specifically that lichen pattern woke her up to something. And I think that's partially the power of these nature-based patterns, is that it connects us to ourselves in the moment, but it also connects us back to the earth. And so that, like one of my big classes in the fall and winter has been this class, Winter Spells. And now it's also spring spells, because a lot of people wanted to continue on. Where basically the idea is that you're walking. Mm-hmm. So you go out wherever you are and you find those natural spaces, even if you're in a city and that's a very small, or a park or whatever it is, but you find those natural spaces and you get yourself out, even if it's 15 minutes, several times a week, you get yourself out and walking, because that's, for me, where I had found sanity during this time, is that connection with nature. And then from that, then that's where you're sort of taking in, and you're taking that groundedness, and then you're pulling those inspirations for your art from that time. So, you might bring a notebook, you might use your phone to take pictures, you might be tuning into the sounds or the smells or whatever it might be, but that's where you're pulling inspiration from. And so it creates this very beautiful loop. And the student that I'm speaking of says that now, between that lichen pattern and doing Winter Spells, she's so plugged in. She's fascinated whenever she goes out. And her children are tired of hearing her say, oh my God, look at that one over there. Look at that lichen. And this one is yellow, and this one is brown, and this one is blue. But she has joy that she wouldn't have had before, because now she's tuned into something that really sparks her curiosity. And that is kind of where we circle back to inspiration and what can feed our art.
Wow, that is super fascinating. And I'm really interested in that slow drawing class. That sounds really awesome.
They happen every week, and it's free. So it's free live on Facebook. And then I put the replay up on my site for a little more than 48 hours.
Well, thank you, Amy, so much for being on Born to Inspire podcast. Really quick, give your website and, how people can find you, and a little bit about your class.
Yeah, it's mindfulartstudio.com. And I have a huge array of classes on my site that range from the slow drawing that I was speaking of, because you can buy the replays, to I I have a class on drawing from nature. I have a class on fluid art that's very popular. So basically, there's a lot of different approaches on there. But if you like that kind of idea of mindfulness and getting the inner critic out of the way and getting in touch with more of your own inner inspiration, then, it may be a great place to check out.
Definitely. I'm definitely going to check it out, especially since, I love to paint, but the mindfulness piece, I'm not so much aware of it. And I think I could learn a lot from you. So thank you so much for being on Born to Inspire. It was
Thanks
lovely
for having me.
Yeah, definitely. It was lovely to have you. And I hope we do this again sometime.
I hope so too. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Amy. Amy is super talented. She also has some really cool YouTube videos on creating art as well, so definitely check those out. I also can't wait to take one of her slow drawing classes. Definitely check out mindfulartstudio.com and see everything Amy has to offer. And trust me when I say art is such an amazing tool when coping with stressful situations and just feeling better in general. How skilled you think you are at art doesn't really matter. It's just an amazing outlet. And if you're not already creating some form of art, I hope you give it a shot. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Born to Inspire, and special thanks to Amy Maricle for coming on the show. It was such a pleasure. I would also like to thank the band Lowlight for their lovely song Mangrove, featured in this episode. You can check out their website at lowlightnj.com. A really interesting and talented band. I was just on their site, and they just finished recording an album in their 150-year-old church. They turned into a recording studio. So really cool. It's been so much fun. If you enjoy this episode and would like to hear more, or maybe read some of my blog posts, you can check those out at borntoinspire.co, or find me on social media. I'm at Born to Inspire Podcast on Facebook and Pinterest, as well as borntoinspire.co on Instagram. Until next time, don't forget to share some inspiration.